Judges 16. We'll take it in sections. But I've enjoyed our study of Judges. I've struggled in our study of Judges. The advantage of Judges is I do think it gives us some insight into the world that we live in now. Virtually every culture is legalistic or libertarian. And we are libertarian, and we're probably going back in the direction of legalism, just not Christian legalism, probably secular legalism. And so the big idea of Judges is everyone did what was right in their own eyes, including the people sent by God to deliver Israel. And Samson is the climax of that. So here we see him, the famous story of Delilah, all that sort of stuff. But we are approaching the climax of Samson. And clearly the writer wants us to marvel at how God can accomplish his good will through very imperfect vessels. That's the good news. God can accomplish his good will even through imperfect vessels. And as bad as the other judges were, particularly Jephthah, boy, Jephthah was rough. Abimelech, probably not even a judge. He was just a dude who took the mantle for himself, wanted to be king. Samson is among the worst. And what's the beauty of Samson is that he's the strongest guy. He is the weakest guy all at the same time. So he's strong in muscle. He's weak in character. And we actually see this practically. He's not a warrior. Remember, Jephthah was always looking for a fight. Gideon was trepidatious with it, but came down to it, he went to war, even with his band of 300 men. Deborah, she was ready to throw down. It was Barak who was holding her back. He couldn't wait. You get me in the bedchamber, let me tell you, the king will go down. I've got a plan. I'm a lefty. I'm going to let him have it, Samson, on the other hand, is not a warrior. He has no righteous mission. Remember that they come to Jephthah and say, look, we know you're a bit of a pirate. We kind of need your help. We've had enough of this oppression. He's not even commissioned by his tribe to war against Philistines. Remember, his tribe, he's a Danite, but the Judites actually handed him over to the Philistines. As strong as he is, he's quite weak. And among his other character flaws, Samson is impulsive and he is a slave to his passions. And this is his downfall. You remember previously, he wanted to marry a Philistine woman because she was pretty. Basically, no other reason than that. We don't get her name, and it's almost like Samson may not have known her name. And remember, he comes back home and says, I want that girl, and they try to talk him out of it. No, he wants what he wants, and he will not be stopped to get what it is that he wants. And you remember what happens is his impulsiveness leads to the death of 30 innocent Philistines, and even the death of his fiancée and her father. Doesn't end too well. Furthermore, we need to notice that of all the judges, Samson is weak, yes. He is the biggest fool. But what sticks out to me in these opening 22 verses is Samson he has to be the biggest fool in the Bible. And there are a lot of big fools in the Bible. There are many of them. Samson, he has to be among the chief of them. And I think this chapter really shows it. Let's start with, let me grab my clicker here. Let's start with the unnamed woman. Now, she is not the only unnamed woman. His mother is unnamed. His fiancée was unnamed. And now, this harlot here is unnamed. In fact, there's one woman who is given a name in the story of Samson, and it is, of course, Delilah. We'll see her in a minute. Let's look at the first 3 verses here. Samson went to Gaza, and there he saw a harlot, and he went into her. The Gazites were told, Samson has come here, and they surrounded the place and set an ambush for him all night at the gate of the city. They kept quiet all night, saying, let us wait till the light of the morning, then we will kill him. But Samson lay till midnight, and at midnight he arose, and took hold more questions than it answers. And we'll see that as we go. Well, this actually sets up the Delilah narrative, okay? So what you get, chapter 14, you get the story with his fiancée. He goes to a Philistine girl, he wants her, creates all kinds of problems. That story foreshadows Delilah. They have the same strategy they use against Samson, okay? This story is the middle of that. It's the Delilah story, and it's a brief vignette of that. And so this sets up the Delilah story, but it also reminds you, Samson hasn't learned his lesson. Here's an example of this. And then when you come to Delilah, you think, it's the same story. But then again, Judges is a repeat of the same story. It's a story of disobedience, discipline, and deliverance. And so Samson embodies that, as we'll see. So Gaza, what is he doing in Gaza? It's the southernmost city of the Philistine. Remember that there's 5 main cities of the Philistines. This is the southernmost of those 5 cities. Those cities are Ashdod, Ashkelon, Ekron, Gath, and Gaza. Remember that Goliath comes from Gath. So he was in his hometown, which is 45 minutes away. It's gone north. He's now there. And again, the narrator doesn't tell us why is he in Gaza. Why is he in Philistine? Samson spends more time among the Philistines than he does his own people. So here's a guy that we think is going to deliver Israel. He seems to need to be delivered himself from the Philistines. Well, again, the economic nature of the text is purposeful. This harlot, my fiance, is unnamed. Notice in verse 1, he saw, he went. What does that sound like? It sounds like the story in chapter 14, where, first of all, he saw one of the daughters of Philistines, verse 8, and he took her. So when it says that he went into her, he took her for himself. This is the nature of this relationship. Man, she's a heart. So now, where do you find see and taken early in the Bible? It's the forbidden fruit. Eve saw that it was, it was good for her eyes. It was delightful to her eyes, and she took it for herself and she ate. Samson does the same thing on these 2 occasions. David's going to do the same thing with Bathsheba. Same story. And there's other accounts that do the same thing. He clearly sees this woman as an object, not as human beings, problem with this sort of institution. But once again, verse 2, not for the last time, this relationship not only endangers him, but it endangers others. His relationship with his fiancée led to her death and her father's death along with 30 Philistines. There's a riddle. Here he is putting this woman in danger. The place is surrounded. And the mob is surrounded at this time. They find out that Samson is in town and where he is. And we're left with some questions like, why did they just attack? I don't know. The text is not interested in answering these questions. It just gives us little details and part of it, I think, is we're like, I'm missing something here. This story makes no sense. But then when we get the story that is more detailed, like Delilah, we're still scratching our head like, Samson makes no sense. I think that's the point. Why didn't they just jump in there? Well, for one, they probably remember Samson just cleared like a couple thousand dudes with barely a weapon. So but why not do it while he's asleep? They're going to wait until I don't know. I don't know these things. But then verse 3, Samson apparently wakes up midnight. He's insomniac, so there you go. I got that in common with him. And he manages to escape. How did he escape the people around? I don't know. Something, well, we don't know if they're surrounding the house. Maybe they're surrounding the city. Maybe they're surrounding the neighborhood. I don't know. We're just not told this stuff. We're just getting the bare minimal facts. He is with the woman. It's surrounded by a mob ready to ambush him. He somehow, around midnight, escapes, and he apparently must know something's going on because he's going to leave the city no matter what, even if he has to tear the doors down literally. Okay? So, now, how does he do this? In my head growing up, probably because I remember the cartoon I watched at children's church, sure Canva could design this. But this is how he showed. So here's the city wall. And the main thing here is look at all these guards. They're everywhere. Okay? So how do you get past the guards? Again, we're not giving any of these details. Okay? But somehow, in some way, we've discovered this from all of our archaeology and stuff. He manages to rip it off. And it's just like a boss, okay? So he has to get through 4 to 6 groups of guards stationed in the guard rooms. Were they asleep? I don't know. Did they think he was still with the woman? Excuse me, we just don't know. How did he carry the gates on his shoulders? A grown man, okay, let's say Shaquille O'Neal, grown man, all right, I would assume the same as a big, broad-shouldered dude. I don't know, okay? For them to carry our double doors, Shaquille O'Neal to carry our doors 40 miles, that's impressive. We're not talking about church doors that welcomes people in. These gates are designed to keep people out. So, is he carrying around like we used to in the 80s, in the old stereos, listen to Run DMC? I don't know. I don't know. We're not giving any details here. We're just told that he decided to go 40 miles away in what is the territory of Caleb, which takes us all the way back to Judges 1. But, I don't know. This is just a brief vignette. Anyways, at the end we see that his relationship with this woman nearly leads to his capture. What happens next? His relationship with a woman, this one named Delilah, leads to his capture. The story is setting this up, and I don't think we need to complicate it more than that. In case you are interested in this, those who are into art, we have uncovered an old church, actually it's a synagogue, not a church, synagogue, and it is a mosaic in the floor of this is Samson. It took me a while to see it. He's carrying the gates. So, do with this whatever it is that you want. At the very least, what it tells us is that this story is quite old. And this is after the time of Jesus, I believe, that the synagogue. But you can Google it and look it up yourself. I just find this stuff fascinating. Put it in your back pocket. All right, let's talk about Delilah, verses 4 to 22. This is along the story of the Samson narrative. Let's start at verse 4, we'll go to 6. After this, he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek. Like we've learned, right? Usually you read, and when a man loves a woman, we think that's good. But with Samson, we know better. Rarely said indeed, this ain't good at all. It says, Valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah, and the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, seduce him and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him. We may bind him to humble him, and we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, please tell me where your great strength lies and how you might be bound that one could subdue you. What a question from someone who you're like, what? I'm sorry. I think I'm sort of like, what if, when I go back dating my wife, what if she just came up to me, honey, can you tell me, where do you keep all your money, right? Not that I got $20 in my wallet, but it's just a weird question.
You asked them point blank.
Yeah. For one, ladies, give Delilah credit. She came out and said what she wanted. Right? She didn't beat around the bush. Right? She just came out, and said, I want to eat red robin. John and I are talking about red robin. Right? Maybe that's what it was. I like this girl. She tells me what she wants. Oh, you want to know the secret to everything? I'll give it to you. See, ladies, it's that easy. It's that easy. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. Delilah. Okay. But you read this and you're thinking, he can't be that foolish. Yes, he can. And he's going to be. He is that much of a fool. That's the word that keeps coming to mind. So the scene is switching from one woman he abandoned to another woman he's going to fall for, and he's impulsive, driven by his passion, slaves with him. And this is the first woman that's named in the Samson story. Her here is the root word for Delilah, if the concordance I'm using is right. Okay? Now, the reason I find that fascinating is here you have Samson, broad-shouldered, strong dude who likes to work out because it's fun. He watches all the bro dudes on Instagram and learns from them. And then over here is Delilah, the feeble one. And in the story, the one proven stronger is the feeble one. The one proven weaker is the strong one. I just find that juxtaposition so incredible. The Bible is such a well-written story. The Valley Historic, Philistine country, reminds us Samson's problem is not just that he loves women, but what sort of women does he love? Every woman that's been a problem for him has been a Philistine woman who is leading him towards foolishness. And once again, his love interest is being weaponized for his downfall. We can even say this about the harlot. She was weaponized for his downfall. Now, we don't know how long he's been with Delilah. All we know is that another woman is being used by the Philistines against Samson. In fact, the word used there for seduce in ESV, verse 5, is the same word used of his fiancée, chapter 14. On the fourth day, they said to Samson's wife, there it is, seduce, entice your husband. It tells what the riddle is. There's a difference. Delilah is going to be bribed. His fiancée was weaponized. But it's the same word. So why they seduce and entice Samson is different. Their choice of how to manipulate him is the same. You've heard me say that if I'm reading the Bible right, and I'm not heard anyone say this so I can be wrong, if I'm reading the Bible right, women are prone to deception, men are prone to seduction. It's two sides of the same coin. I think I shared this a few months ago. I was reading a book, and it was written by a woman, and the motivation of the villain was jealousy. It was a woman jealous of the neighbor and all this. I thought, that's not the sort of story I like. But then I realized if a guy was writing a story, the narrative arc, the motivation would be revenge, anger. And then it hit me. Those are kind of two sides of the same coin. The way they're expressed may be different, but it's still the same sort of thing. Same thing here is that Samson is a warning to men in particular. Is that he is weak at the knees with women who know his weakness and are willing to use that weakness for their advantage. This is why self-control is so important for men, and really it's the power that women have over men, and the power men have over women, of course. But Samson's very convicting, I think. Now, I do want to point this out. She asked, what is the source of your strength? Right? By the way, I will come to that. What is the source of your strength? What sticks out to me is the answer is not consistent with what the text has told us. In fact, if I asked you, what is the source of Samson's strength? Let's say 6 weeks ago, I asked you, what's the source of Samson's strength? We're all going to say the same thing, his hair, right? We know the story of Samson. What does the text actually tell us? That is true. It's not the main source. It's the Spirit of the Lord. Judges 14:6, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and although he had nothing in his hand, he tore the lion in pieces. His one tear your own goat. Now, again, I made this joke. I don't know how you tear your own goat, but I'm guessing that is easier than tearing apart the lion. And you got to be strong to do that. Judges 14, we're telling you, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, one of the 5 cities, struck down 30 men in town. Judges 15, when he came to Lehi, Philistines came shouting to meet him. The Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and the ropes came right off when his fellow Judites handed him over. Finally, I took it out. So there's 3 examples. What is the source of his strength? It is not his hair. It's when the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. And so, now, I think it's both. It is his hair, which is the outward manifestation of the Nazirite vow that has been dedicated to God. So in specific moments, the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. But Samson, we'll see this later, slightly not right, but Samson will conclude, my hair is my strength, not my God. Now there's some truth to that. But as we'll see, when his hair is cut, the Spirit leaves. So here's a guy who's been dedicated to the Lord from his birth, and he doesn't know the source of Just to give you a point of reference, is that a lot of money? It is a whole lot of money. Remember, Gideon, he was paid, he was retained to fight. This is 3 times where he was paid to do that. Just to give you a reference point. Right. So, verse 6, she wants him to be bound. He's been bound before. Judges, remember the Judites did this. And that's when the Spirit came upon him. He came out of that. So they want to bind him again, but they don't want to make the same mistake. That led to the death of a lot of Philistines. And so they want to know, we've got to get rid of your strength. So what we get are 4 temptations. 4 of them. I mean, this is overkill. At some point, you're thinking, Samson, she's not your friend. she may have ulterior motives, but she's pretty. I get that. But she's trying to destroy you. Verse 7. Samson said to her, if they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings and have not been dried, excuse me, thou shalt become weak, be like any other man. The Philistines brought up her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried. She bound him with them. Now she had men lying in ambush, just like the previous story, in the inner chamber. That's the bedroom. Okay? And she said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he snapped the bowstrings as a thread of flax snaps when it touches fire. The secret of his strength was not known. Okay? So this is the first temptation. We're going to see the same pattern on and on from here. He manages to resist, of course. What we're seeing here is that Samson seems to trust in his wits as much as he trusts in his strength. This is why he's a fool. He thinks he's smarter than everybody he meets. Remember the riddles in chapter 14? What he did with the riddles to the men, the Philistine men, he's doing to a Philistine woman. He thinks he can outwit her. In fact, she mostly manipulates him by saying, you're making fun of me. We'll see this going forward. Notice the emphasis on 7. He'll use 7 again in the third temptation. He probably is making fun of her, teasing her a little bit. The reference is probably to animal tenets, which means he is violating his Nazirite vow not to touch anything unclean, particularly that which is dead. So here's another example coming in there. But he proves he's stronger than they are. This leads to the second temptation, verse 10, same pattern. Delilah said to Samson, behold, you have mocked me and told me lies. Please tell me how you might be bound. Notice her emotional manipulation. It's a physical manipulation by using her body. It's emotional manipulation. Now she's saying, you're just making fun of me. And men cannot win with emotional manipulation. Either they give in and they're weak, or they fight back and they are too strong. Either way, men cannot win. Verse 11, he said to her, if they bind you with new ropes that have not been used, go to Walmart and get you some, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. So Delilah took new ropes, bound him with them, and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And the men lying in ambush were in the inner chamber, right there in the bedroom. He snapped the ropes off his arms like a thread. Same thing, same story. The means of it is different, but same story. And again, we have to pause and say, Samson, do you not see what we see? And he is so blinded by his lusts and his impulsive behavior and his foolishness. So he is so foolish, he thinks he's wise, and that is blinding him. So he knows he's putting himself in danger. But he thinks, I'm too strong, I'm too smart. This is men's problem, right? Every man thinks he is too strong and too smart. This is a curse we all have. Okay? All right. The third temptation, verse 13. Delilah said to Samson, until now you have mocked me and told me lies. And you hear the manipulation. Tell me how you might be bound. He said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head and the web and fasten it tight with the pin, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his head and wove them into the web. And she made them tight with the pin and said to them, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he woke from sleep, pulled away the pin, the loom, and the web. Now, are you seeing how the stakes are getting higher? Because now he's saying, knows his weakness. And remember, this is a guy who's very secretive. Remember, he killed a lion and didn't tell his parents? He's very secretive. But women whom he has fallen for, who will weaponize emotions and the body, that's his weakness. He will give away everything. And you look at this like, it's the fool. I mean, this is what the Bible means by fools. Yes. And history is full of these examples. How many men have been ruined by foolish things? Yeah, no.
And then he's telling her that he loves her.
How so? She's not getting that vibe.
I don't think she cares, but I think he might think she believes him.
Now, that is something.
Because it comes back and says, how can you say you love me and you won't tell me this?
Yeah. So I've been critical of women. This is where we can be critical of men. Where men, he is making light of the romantic relationship. He is lying to her.
Maybe.
Oh, he's lying. Like every time she finds him or fixes his hair in a ponytail, whatever it is, and he breaks free. Now, she is manipulative. She's not a good character. But she's no worse than Samson in this whole story. He's lying to her. And this is a problem that men have. Men will lie. And for whatever reason, he's lying. And it's a game to him. Look, this relationship will not last long term, given what they're doing to each other. They're both manipulating, lying to each other. Like, you read this, and all Samson had to do, like, why do you want to know the secret of my strength? But he doesn't do that. He thinks, well, I can outsmart her. I can make this a game. I'll just keep lying to her. See how long we can keep this game going. It's just not good. All right, fourth temptation, last one, verse 15 and 17. She said to him, how do you say I love you? This is what Donald was referencing. When your heart is not with me, you have mocked me these 3 times. You have not told me where your direction lies. And you hear the manipulation. When she pressed hard with her words, day after day, and urged him, his soul was vexed to death. That's the summary of emotional manipulation. Right? She cannot physically outdo him, but she can emotionally outdo him. And here he just, okay, so I'll say this and then we'll come to that. Verse 17, he told her all his heart and said to her, the razor has never come upon my head. I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If my head is shaved, then my strength will weaken, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. That language of he told her all of his heart. This is really, particularly what women want from their husbands. Now, I can get in trouble if we go beyond this. But what we have an example of a husband, or not a husband, but a man doing this for his girl. And yet it's turned against him. I'm going to stop there before we get in trouble. But I want you to notice Judges 14, same thing. Samson's wife wept over him and said, you hate me. You do not love me. She says the same thing opposite way. You've put a rid of my people. I've told them what it is. Behold, I have not told my father, mother, knows the secrecy. She wept before him 7 days. Remember, the feast lasts 7 days. For the entire wedding ceremony, she's crying. Because of him. I mean, this is not a healthy relationship. I mean, you talk about a guy like Strong. Talk about a great reality television show. Not one that we should watch, but I'm sure it would get good ratings. So he reveals the secret. And this leads, of course, to his capture. Verse 18. When Elias saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called the Lord of the Philistines, saying, come up again, for he has told me all his heart. The Lord of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hands. She made him sleep on her knees. So you'll notice how this is an intimate moment. She is seducing him again, bringing him. And by the way, this is very similar to what Yael did to Sisera. Remember that he came in wanting security while he's running from Deborah in the army, and she gives him milk and lays him down and he falls asleep, and that's when she kills him. The story has hyperlinks to that. Here he is, laying in the lap of a girl he has deep affection for. He's given his heart to her. And she uses that as the means of what will lead to his end. But in Judges 4, it's a Gentile who falls for it. Here, it's a Jew who falls for it. she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And he awoke from his sleep and said, "I will go out at other times and shake myself free." You hear the cry. And he did not know that the Lord had left him. The Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze shackles. He ground at the mill in prison, but the hair of his head began to grow again after he had been shaved. Okay, so this is it. She has his hair cut, and again, she's devious. She weaponizes her femininity, which is the gift relationship has now been used against him. So his pride jumps off the page. I've done it before. I'll do it again, but this time it doesn't work. He sees his eyes are gouged out. That's just not it. He's taken to Gaza. Remember, Gaza is where he took the hinges of the gate off, carried it off to the Caleb area. And he's made to work as a slave. Now, there's irony there. He was already a slave. He was already a moral slave. And now he is doing the work. Well, verse 22 is the foreshadowing. It ruins the story, doesn't it? Hair's coming back. But we see that tension between, is it the hair or is it the Lord? And if the hair is removed, the Lord is gone. It's the visual picture of the Lord's blessing upon you. But as the hair returns, what we're discovering is this becomes a process of repentance for Samson. And through that process of repentance, pictured with his hair, the Lord returns to use him as he originally called him. We'll have to get to that next week. So what I want to do is, I've got 3 points of application, and we'll call them up. Okay? First thing, Samson embodies Israel. We have to see this. Israel enjoys a special relationship with Yahweh. Samson enjoys a special relationship with Yahweh. Despite those benefits and the privileges that come with it, both squander it. Eventually, they surrender those privileges by getting in bed with foreign deities. So Samson is a microcosm of what's happened in Israel broadly. And so, as we marvel at what in the world is Samson thinking and doing, we have to pause and say, actually, what is Israel doing? What is God's people doing? It's the same story. And just as it is foolish in what Samson does, it's foolish what Israel does. Why does he keep going to the Philistine women who are ruining him? Why do the Israelites keep going to the Canaanite gods who are ruining them? In the Bible, idolatry and adultery go hand in hand. They're pictured very much the same way. Remember, God says, I'm going to write a certificate of divorce because you cheated on me. Idolatry. So it's worth noting, it is not God who leads Israel or Samson. It is Israel and Samson who leads God. When he says, cut off my hair, I don't need it anymore. As if God is saying, all right, let's see if the gods of the Philistines protect you. That's what they've done. It's the whole story of Judges. Secondly, I think this is the obvious. I've said this 1,000 times in one way or another. Sin is foolishness. Sinners are fools. I mean, this is what jumps off the page in chapter 16 for me. We could do it throughout the whole Bible. Look what David gave up for Bathsheba. Foolishness. Look what Judas gave up for a few coins. Look what happened to Peter because he got a little scared. Look at Aaron listening to all the people saying, hey, we got some gold, let's make a calf out of this. Pick any story in the Bible. You cannot separate sin from foolishness. In fact, that seems to be one of the main story arcs of the Bible. What is the tree? The forbidden tree is of knowledge of good and evil. We read that and we think, but isn't knowledge of good and evil good? Yes. But if you read the story, God had given them the wisdom. Here is life, here is death. What did they choose? Death. It's foolishness. So had they listened to the voice of God, they would have known good and evil as He revealed it. But they took for themselves what was forbidden. This foolishness, this is the story of humanity. Okay? You cannot separate sin from foolishness. All sin is foolishness. How many of us think we can compromise here, there won't be any problems, and then we discover, oh, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems here. Samson is a fool. By the time entire narrative is him being a fool. He is blinded by his foolishness. There is not an ounce of wisdom in Samson, despite all the blessings God gives him. And as we pointed out, he tries to outwit the Philistines. Every time he tries to outwit them, he gets outwitted. But what does he do? Well, I'm too smart. I'll just outwit them the next time. And then what happens is he gets proved to be a fool. He trusts in his strength. He trusts in his brain. And to add insult to injury, despite being made to look like a fool while thinking he is wise, he doesn't learn from his foolishness. I'm reminded of Paul in Romans 1. I didn't put it up there. Claiming to be wise, they became fools. I mean, that is the demon. What is it that Paul writes, quoting Jeremiah? God has made foolish the wisdom of the wise. I mean, here it is. The Philistines aren't exactly covered in wisdom themselves. But anyways, fine. God's grace is marvelous. I think we've said this every week we've looked at Judges. God's grace is marvelous. Verse 22 is pregnant with meaning. It is great foreshadowing, rather. Despite all that Samson has done, he has left the Lord. From the very beginning, he has left the Lord. In fact, I think we skipped this. Go back up to verse 17, okay? He told her all in his heart and said to her, a razor has never come upon my head. I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. Okay? Now, then you'll notice verse 20, the end of verse 20. I will go out as at other times and shake myself free, right? But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Now, in our Bibles, God is written as we would write God. Big G, little O, little b. Lord is written in all caps. Right? You've noticed that in your own Testament. Okay? Reason is because those are two different Hebrew words. All caps is the proper name of God, Yahweh, the name given to Moses at the burning bush. This is the Jewish God. There is no other religion, tribe, nation, anywhere in the world that uses the name Yahweh. When we dig up in the Middle East and we find the name Yahweh, we know the Jews have been here. We have found the name Yahweh. This is the easiest way to determine that this comes from the Hebrews. Okay? But when Samson reveals the source of his strength, he does not say it comes from the Jewish God. He uses the generic word Elohim. Elohim is actually in the plural, but in the Bible it's usually in the singular. So the Philistines would use this word, the Hebrews would use this word, the Canaanites would use this word, the Egyptians would use this word. It is the generic word for God. Much in the same way, God is a generic word for God. I try to often is I will try to specify what God I'm speaking of, usually by saying Jesus Christ, or by saying Father, or something like that. He doesn't use the proper name of the God of Israel. He uses the generic name that the Philistines understood. And it's plural. They have a plurality of gods. Despite that, you get it there in verse 22, that the hair of his head began to grow again. And you will find, all the way down to verse 28 to ruin the story, Samson called upon Yahweh. That's grace. Samson is pretty low at this point. He's a blind slave grinding at the mill, which requires some strength. He's been outwitted. He's been proven a fool. He has failed everyone in his life. And everything he has touched has just been broken. And yet, when he calls upon the name of the Lord, God saves him. That's the beauty of Judges. As frustrating as the book is, at the end of the day, is a picture of grace. So good. I'm reminded of what Jesus did for Peter. Remember in John, Jesus goes to Peter and says, Peter, you love me. Yeah, you know I love you. So you could read that as saying, what Peter was saying, yes, I have affection for you as a friend would to a friend. And Jesus is asking, no, what I want is unconditional love that leads to your death, which is how that chapter ends. That you will go where you don't want to go, your arm will be stretched, and you will die. Okay?
Last time, though, Jesus uses filet.
Yes. So, there's another option. It could be John is using synonyms. And the reason we may think that, if my memory serves me right, he uses two words for sheep, lamb and sheep. So if he's using a plurality of synonyms for sheep, is he doing the same without a difference of meaning? Is he doing the same thing with love? I don't know. But it preaches if you say Peter wasn't really loving Jesus until Jesus called him out. That'll preach.
Last thing too, he said he would go to the death. He does like leave, but not me, man.
Yeah.
I think that was part of the quiz too.
Yeah. And then he has to ask, well, what about John? Is he going to love you that much when to death? You know? And that's where Mormons come and say Apostle John is still alive and well. But we can't change that rabbit either. Unless you want to stay for another hour.
Don't matter to me.
All right. Anything else, Dan? Did I miss anything?
No, you didn't.
How'd it go with the kids?
It went fine.
Yeah.
I got 11 of them back there making boxes up in there.
That's awesome. So our goal is like, what was it 4,826? I think we said. So if they can knock out 3,000, John's going to get 1,000. I think we'll have about a handful at least. So, you know, that'd be all right.
Be cool.
Ken's off tomorrow, and that's it.
I said my parents.
Oh,
So I told you all that.
that says challenge accepted.
I told you all the mom's really sick. She, you know, had a hard time with OCC and not being able to do it all. So I found another photo I sent to you of Evangel holding there's like two boxes, you know, Jesus, right here in front of the office. And it was, we posted online how many, I think it was 144 year, 110 year, whatever it was. And I sent that to her, you know, hopefully, like, it was 7 years ago. It was back when she was cute, you know. And she wanted to be a helper, but she was too young to actually be a good helper. But you can't tell her that, or her mother that. Anyway, so, any other questions? Don, you got any other comments you want to make?
I think it's unusual the way that Samson turned out and the way Gideon turned out.
How so?
Gideon went the opposite direction. He started being an idolater. And he turned down leadership and lots of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he had one of the greatest miracles man could be given.
So you're saying Gideon was a fool?
No, I'd say that.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, Samson carried those gates 40 miles.
It's incredible. I can't even.
No, I'm not talking, it's the number. You know,
Oh,
we
yeah.
saw 7 all the time. Then 40 is a number. It's very common in the Bible.
Yeah.
The Old Testament.
Yeah, it's often, although not always, associated with testing and temptation. 40 years in the desert, 40 days in the wilderness, Jesus, and there's other instances like that. So could we read something in there? The text doesn't seem to highlight the number 40, but if you do the math as a bird flies, it's about 40. But you know, from about here to McDonald's only is about a marathon, it's about 26 miles, give or take. So you're going to almost double that length. This is past your parents' house. Like, just, so, I don't get that story completely. I don't know how it all works, you know, but it's a cool story. I mean, when you're growing up as a little boy, of all those cartoons we watched in children's church, Samson is like the only one I really remember. A little bit of the coat of many colors and being thrown in the pit. Samson, I just ate up as a little boy. I just couldn't get over it. Dude just ripping off the door off the head. Are we recording? He's not paying attention. Elijah one day, when he was a little boy, locked the door from the inside of his bedroom. I did not handle that well. So I explained to him, either you unlock it, I figure out how to unlock it, get the screwdriver out, and this is the Parsons